Whip Shop, and I'm very excited to show you an alternate method for finishing the ends of your whips. Now first and foremost, before we get into the tutorial, I need to give credit where credit is due and mention that a lot of the techniques that you'll be seeing me use here I learned from a video that was put out by an excellent craftsman by the name of Rhett Kelly. Whether he knows it or not, Rhett has been an absolute huge inspiration and help to me, especially when I was learning how to make whips. So please do visit his website, cowwhips.com. You won't be disappointed. So what are we looking at here? Well, this is a method called a tapered twist for finishing your whips. And this is an alternate method to a conventional fall hitch. Normally, on all the other videos that you watched on this channel, what we did was we plated our whip like we would, and then we dropped strands as we go to encourage the taper. And when we were left with 4 strands, a 4-plat, under 1, over 1, 2 strands on each side, we would tie a fall hitch. We'd grab a fall and tie it on, and that would be the end. And that's the conventional, traditional way of finishing mostly a bullwhip, many other whips for that matter. So here, we're not doing that. Instead of tying on that fall hitch, we're taking those 4 strands, continuing them about an inch past the core, so temporarily we're plating under 1, over 1, over nothing. And right after about an inch, we're going to go into the twist. And the same physics that's at play when you make a cracker, that's the same physics that's going on here when we make this tapered twist to finish our whips. So that we're twisting the strands on each other, and as we go, we're dropping a strand. So we start with 4, now we have 3 strands that we're twisting together, and finally we end with 2 strands twisted together that ultimately we're feeding one inside of the other. And that becomes a fall of sorts. Now, in my personal opinion, there's 2 big advantages to doing this. Number 1, it's really fast. It's a lot faster than plating. Sure, it takes some time to get used to being able to hold those strands together without letting them go so that they can effectively twist on each other, but once you master that, this is a lot quicker than plating, no doubt. And you don't have to make it just be a foot. I only carried it on about a foot past when we transitioned from the under 1, over 1 into the twist. I carried that on a foot, but you can carry that on 24 inches or sometimes even longer. Wind resistance becomes a factor after a while, but you can definitely get away with having it pretty long. So that's the first advantage. I think it's quick. It's very fast. It's effective in that manner. The second advantage that I see with using this method is that you can get a really fine point, much more so than you could get with a relatively large traditional fall hitch, whether it be in a 6-point fall hitch or even a 4-point fall hitch, which is pretty small. This gets even smaller. And of course, that contributes to having that nice ratio from big to small, with the largest part of the whip compared to the smallest part of the whip. So you really can use that energy to its fullest potential, and that having that small point helps cut through the air, ultimately leading to an easier crack. Now the first disadvantage that I see with this method, it's sometimes easy to have a crease forming between the transition of your herringbone and your twist. So that's kind of a hot spot for creases to form if you're not careful. And a way to get around this is to just make sure that you're twisting those strands nice and tight from the get-go. The second disadvantage that I see with this method is that this is more of a built-in fall of sorts. So you can't just take the fall off, put a new one on, and you're good to go. With this, it's more of a built-in system, so if you're using your whip and it's wearing out, you unfortunately don't have the luxury of just being able to replace the fall. But as long as you're not cracking your whip over abrasive surfaces, gravel, concrete, you should be just fine. Now guys, please do make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. It really helps the channel out and allows me to keep making videos like this. Also, please do head over to patreon.com/NicksWhipShop, where you can further support this channel so that we can keep these tutorials coming. So I hope you learned something new. Let's jump in. Okay, we are currently in a 6-plat. And here is our core strand, which we're going to be passing up here in 6-plat. So I'm going to continue plating towards the end of this whip. And as we work our way down, we're not going to start the twist until we are in 4 plait. So I'm going to be dropping some of these shorter strands here. Here's one here, and there's another one over here. So I'm going to keep on plaiting. And like I said, we're going to be covering up the core strand. And just before we get to the end of this core strand here, I'm going to be dropping one of my 6 strands. We are reaching the end here. As you can see, we're running out of our core strand, so that means it's time to drop one of our shorter strands. Now this is the strand I'm going to be dropping. It's the shortest one on the right side. As you can see, it's a little longer than it needs to be, but I like to err on the side of having a little too much than too little. So we're going to drop this strand. It's going to become the core. Before we drop it, I want to get 1 strand on top of it, just to hold things down. So here's the strand. Let's get 1 more on that right side. So this is the strand we're dropping in the middle. And let's drop it right now. And that becomes the core. And we continue plaiting on the right side. Under 1 over 1, on the left side under 2 over 1, like that. So you can see, here's the original core strand, and it's just going to become one with our new drop strand. That's the new core. And this is just some preparation leading up to the tapering twist. And a few inches down, once everything is seated nicely in place, we're going to drop another strand from the left side, and that'll put us in a 4 plait. So this is our core strand currently. As soon as we drop the left strand, that will become the core, and we're going to need to actually trim this off. So here's the strand that we'll be dropping next. Right here. Just like we did on the right side, we're going to make sure that we have a strand on top of it, just for extra stability and pressure. And here is the strand we're going to drop. So giving it 1 pull, slip it underneath the strand below, and now I'm going to cut the previous core. So here's the new core. Man, what a beautiful day to fly. Wish I was up there right now. So this is currently a 4 plait over our core. When we work our way down a few inches, 3, 4, 5 inches, I'm once again gonna cut this core, and I'm gonna plait this pattern just past it. Once I'm about 1 inch past, we're gonna go in to our twist. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that core strand right now. I think that is a good place. And this time, I'm going to keep on plaiting right over it. And then we'll be temporarily plaiting 4-plat over nothing. And as soon as we pass this up, we're going to go into our twist. We are currently passing up that core, and what I like to do is I'm just going to melt the end just a little bit so that we don't have the fraying going on. That's all. Gonna let this train go by. I'll be right back with you guys. So we're gonna work our way past this core strand here for about 1 inch until it's completely history and covered up. Just like that, maybe one more. And here's where we're going to begin the twist. Now to set this up, as you can see I have here on my right side, the bottom strand points to the upper left. So we're going to act as if we're plaiting for just a moment. I'm going to take the strand around the back, and I'm going to meet that strand up with this guy and pinch right there. Then I'm going to grab the other strand and pull it around and pinch right there. I'm going to pull these down and outward at about a 45-degree angle. Now we are ready to begin our twist. Make sure that our strands are pinched left and right. We're looking good. Now the right hand is the one that's going to be doing the twisting. The left hand is merely holding the strands from untwisting. Now I'm doing it this way because I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed, the roles would be reversed. So here we go, starting with the right. 1, 2, cross it over, holding it with my left fingers, and repeating that. 1, 2. I like to give it 2 big twists. 1, 2. 1, 2. And just going to work our way down. And it's twisting in on itself. This is the same physics at work as when you make crackers. And notice on the left, I'm kind of holding it with my pinky here and my ring finger, so that when I twist, this is kind of helping me, my index finger, but I'm still holding it from untwisting on the left. And working my way down. This is a very challenging video to make, because I gotta be moving the camera around without letting go of the strands. And see that? Now it depends on how long you want this section of the whip to be. It's up to your discretion. This is basically a built-in fall of sorts, not entirely. So we're still twisting 4 strands together. Forgive me, I have to situate myself in my camera here. There we go. We're still twisting 4 strands together. But I think it's about time that I want to drop a strand. And the way we do that is we let one go. So I'm going to let this strand go and continue the process. So now there's one on the left, and I'm still twisting these two together, and I'm still using the same method that I was before, except with 3 strands. Now this is a big old hand muscle workout, so your hands are going to be burning. Mine are. I haven't done a tapered twist in quite some time, so I'm feeling it. Looking good. Now it's time to let another strand go. This time we'll let one of the black strands go. And now we're just twisting 2 strands together. So I'm nearing the place where I want this thing to stop. In other words, the whip is getting kind of long, and we don't want it to carry on very long like this because this is a very light part, and if we have too much of this, it's going to be too much drag, too much wind resistance, and the whip isn't going to crack properly. So I've dropped strands as I've worked my way down, and I'm right now in 2 strands only. And that's one of the beautiful things about doing this twist to finish, because this right here, the diameter here, is a lot smaller than what you would get if you were ending in a 4-point ball hitch. You don't have that big old, relatively big old, bulky fall hitch on your whip, right? So this is it, guys. I want to stop this thing right now. This is a really neat part of this. I'm going to take my strand right here, this strand, and believe it or not, I'm actually going to thread a needle onto it. So I just threaded my lacing needle onto one of my strands here, the one that's underneath the left strand. Here's our other strand. And this is going to become our fall. So I'm going to poke right in here. Try to get as close as you can to the crease right here. If you do it a little further out, it's going to be a little bit of a weaker fall. Not a weaker fall, but it's going to be a little bit flexible, and there's going to be a crease there. So in we go with the needle. Don't let that happen to you. Nice and straight. And then we're just going to be working this down like that. We're just working our needle down like we would for any other fall. Now this is kind of holding things in place for us there. Working our way down. And you can see it's going in. And that is becoming our fall there. Just like that. So now we can stretch this out, and we can cut this anywhere we want to cut it. I'm going to give it about 8 inches. I'm going to cut it and melt it. And there we have it. Now we're going to go up and trim off our excess strands that we dropped. We'll start with the top strand. Now before you cut this, I like to give it a little pull, not too much. Cut it about 1 millimeter or 2 so that when you melt it, it's going to stop itself from going back up inside. Just like this. Giving that a little melt. And then we're just going to press it in to the rest, just like that. I'm going to be doing that for all the strands. On to the next one here. Little tug, just to make sure it's seated in place. Little snip there. And doing the same thing. And press it in place, just like that. And there we go. Well, that's it, guys. A fairly simple procedure. I hope you go and try it yourself. I've tied on a cracker to the end of this whip. I've given it a dip in some wax, and this thing is ready to go. By the way, would you be interested in winning this whip? I'm giving this thing away at the 2018 Los Angeles Whip Meetup. So there's some details about that in the description, and you have the opportunity to take this thing home. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next tutorial.